anything that has been made can be unmade. Anything that has been made can be made better. There it is, the things that I really believe are of importance in architecture. These are the dimensions that I like to work with. It's something very personal. It's not perhaps the dimensions appreciated by art critics or architecture critics or city planners, but I think these are the necessary oxygen for us to live in buildings, to live in cities, to connect ourselves in a social space. That optimism is what drives architecture forward. It's the only profession where you have to believe in the future. You can be a general, a politician, and I'm a believer in the expressive. I have never been a fan of the neutral. I don't like neutrality in life, in any radical versus conservative. Radical, what does it mean? It's something there's a lot of appreciation for the kind of cool architecture. I've always been an opponent of it. Emotions, not just of those who build them, but of those who will live there as well. Inexplicable versus understood. You know, too often we want to understand everything, but architecture is not emotions, not just of those who build them, but of those who will live there as well. Inexplicable versus understood. You know, too often we want to understand everything, but architecture is not the language of words. It's a language, but it is not a language that can be reduced to a series of programmatic notes that we can verbally write. Too many buildings that you see outside that are so banal tell you a story, but the story is very short, which says, we have no story to tell you. So the important thing, actually, is to introduce the actual architectural dimensions, which might be totally inexplicable in words, because they operate in proportions, in materials, in light. They connect themselves into various sources, into a kind of complex vector matrix that isn't really frontal, but is really embedded in the lives and in the history of a city and of a people. So again, the notion that a building should just be explicit, false notion, which has reduced architecture to banality. Hand versus the computer. Listening to all of you, the complexity of thought, the complexity of layers of meaning is overwhelming. Of course, that means the architecture is so political. The political is not an enemy of architecture. The politeia means it's the city. It's all. It is important that it be real. You know, we can simulate almost anything, but the one thing that cannot be ever simulated, unexpected versus habitual. What is a habit? It's just a shackle for ourselves. It's a self-induced poison, which is also the raw. You know, I often think of the raw and the refined. What is raw? The raw, I would say, is the naked experience, something which is focused on reality, something that has the power through its leverage. Thank you. Thank you very much.